What's up, guys? Thanks for tuning into this video on Elvis is the Man. So today I have two different topics. One is how Vernon showed consideration and deep appreciation for us Elvis fans at Graceland for Elvis's funeral, granting Elvis fans hours to see Elvis's body in the living room. Like, can you imagine? And how Parker tried to move in on Vernon at this most vulnerable time. And then the second part of this video, I'll be talking about my theory on how Elvis died. Now, I've read a lot of books that cover this subject, and I'll be presenting to you the theory that I think is most likely, from the book Death of Elvis mostly. Also, stay tuned to the end of this video, and I'll answer the question, if I could go back in any time in history, what time would it be and why?
What's up, guys? Welcome to this video here on Elvis is the Man. And I've been coming across such good information around this date that I want to share with you some very interesting and heartwarming things that happened as the community came together and Vernon and the staff at Graceland came together, as well as the city of Memphis, which included the police officers and all who were involved with security and the fans as well on Elvis's funeral day, 1977. So the first heartwarming story I want to bring to you is about Vernon Presley and his love that he showed towards us Elvis fans. Now, he was going through extreme grief because he lost Gladys, and that was hard enough. We remember that in 1958 in August. But now Vernon has to go through the death of his son. He would call him my baby, my boy, and he was going through a lot of grief. And the decision had been made to let the fans go through the front door and see Elvis in his casket to pay their final respects. A very nice, sweet gesture to show Elvis's love to the fans. Now, it was originally scheduled to be just a 2-hour thing, and already there were thousands and thousands of Elvis fans lining up to see Elvis and just to be there. Now, there was a little concern about security. They didn't want anything crazy to happen when these fans were going through all distraught and distressed. But luckily, everything worked out well. And as the fans were filing through, it was about 2 hours, and they noticed that the lines were getting longer and longer, and there was a concern about the heat. So what happened was Dick Grobe and Joe Esposito went into Vernon and told him the situation. Now, Vernon was very upset at this time and had a tough decision to make. They explained to him that the lines were only getting longer, it was extremely hot outside, and for the fans' safety, they should probably just close the doors. With tear-stained eyes, Vernon said, "Elvis would want us to let as many fans come through as possible, for as long as we can, so we can have one last look at my son." For the next hour, fans filed through to pay their respects to Elvis. They were very distraught, but they kept their composure for the most part, and everything was very orderly and respectful. Again, they came back to Vernon and told him it'd be best to shut down as sunset was approaching and the lines were only getting longer. In light of the promise that Vernon made to let that evening be a private viewing for friends and family, he decided to leave it open for 1/2 hour longer. I think this shows us the kind of good-hearted man Vernon was and the love that Elvis had for his fans. Now, to make matters even harder on Vernon that day, the day of Elvis's funeral, Colonel Parker came into Graceland early that day with papers for Vernon to sign. Vernon was not fit either emotionally or mentally to deal with business at this time. Colonel was pressuring Vernon to sign these papers ASAP. These papers were to give all authority over Elvis's merchandise over to Colonel now that Elvis was gone. So I think most of you guys would agree that the day of your son's funeral is not the best time for you to talk business. I'll let you guys debate in the comments as to whether or not Colonel Parker's motives were pure or selfish. Vernon signed the papers that day. Now this brings us to what was going on outside the mansion. There was pandemonium in the streets. Tens of thousands of Elvis fans were lined up just to get a glimpse of him and just to be there on this special day. Memphis security was on staff in the Graceland yards during that hot summer day. The sweet thing is, so many police officers were there just out of honor for Elvis. Many of them were actually off duty and just working and volunteering because they were like, Elvis is one of us. Elvis was loyal to the police department during his life and showed them much respect, and they returned the favor when Elvis needed it. At one point, the maids looked out the window and noticed that the police officers had been there for a few hours already, and it was scorching hot. They decided to bring them out some sandwiches and tea. Security sure was thankful for Graceland's thoughtfulness. Now this brings me to some very interesting and also very strange occurrences that happened in and around Graceland on this day and in days ahead. As many of you know, when they were taking Elvis's casket out to the hearse to be taken to the crypt, a large tree branch at Graceland snapped out of nowhere and fell to the ground. It was a heavy branch. Everybody there was totally in shock because they were like, how did this thing just break?
So you've heard the question asked, if you could go back at any time period, what would it be? Or if you could meet any famous person, dead or alive, who would it be? Well, one of the times I would go back in history is for this time period right here, when fans were actually allowed to walk into Graceland to view Elvis's body. So these were the fans that actually waited outside and were lucky enough at the spur of the moment for Vernon to decide to let them come in and view Elvis's body, because this, I don't even think, was actually planned. So can you imagine at least being a fly on the wall, like going inside and being part of that whole thing and looking at Elvis? Wow. But the surprising thing is, out of those people that were allowed to actually go in there, I've never read their testimonies. Okay, here's the second part of this video. Now, I understand other people have different viewpoints on this topic, but this is the one that makes the most sense to me.
I want to talk about, in my opinion, out of all the scenarios and theories on how and why Elvis died, what is the one that makes most sense to me? Because I put up bits and pieces of this stuff before, but, you don't want to beat a dead horse, and, half the people love hearing it, the other half is like, why are you talking about, so I know I can put this type of stuff up here. So we got to go back to August 15th. Elvis had a dentist appointment. He was set to go on tour the next day. He wanted to get some dental work done, so it wasn't a problem for him while he was on tour. He went early in the morning, August 16th. The doctor gave him codeine tablets, a prescription of codeine tablets. Now, I don't know why the doctor would give it to him, because Elvis had a reaction to codeine. He would get itchy. It would get hard for him to breathe depending on the dosage. People in the Army spoke about this. His nurse mentioned this, and also Linda Thompson mentioned that they all noticed a reaction that Elvis would have to codeine. Now, that doesn't mean that Elvis never took it in small amounts, but the levels in his body the day he was found was 10 times the therapeutic limit. Extremely toxic. And for a man that had a reaction to it, why would he take that many? He never would. And it even proves my point that when Elvis got back to Graceland, he sent out one of the Stanley brothers to go back to the pharmacy and get him Dilaudid in replace of the codeine, because Elvis wanted Dilaudid for pain. Not that he had such serious work done that he needed such a high dosage and strength of Dilaudid, because that is an extremely potent painkiller. But we know at this point, Elvis, his senses were dull, and he was taking, higher and higher amounts of this stuff. So he wanted Dilaudid, actually. Now, my opinion of what happened that night, as painted out and illustrated in the book The Death of Elvis, which I recommend, it needs to be on the shelf of every Elvis fan. What their theory is Elvis got the prescription of the codeine, and there's a similarity between the Dilaudid and the codeine. Both had number 4 on the tablets, which indicates strength. One is pale yellow and one is white. And Elvis sitting in the bathroom because he got 3 packets of medication sent up to him overnight, August 16th. He got 3 packets of medication sent up to him. Now, who knows the lighting in Elvis's bathroom and also his physical and mental state. If Elvis was already groggy, which I'm sure he was after 2 packets, that third one, he may not have been in his total right mind to tell the difference between the Dilaudid and the codeine. Now, I don't know exactly what was in that third packet. Some even say that the wrong pills were put in the packet. But the blood work shows that Elvis had, I believe, 10 to 14 different drugs in his system. Not all of them were toxic, but the codeine was 10 times past the therapeutic limit, which could have caused an allergic reaction, enough to kill him. Now, there were times that Elvis took too much medication, we'll call it, that he became short of breath and could not catch his breath. One instance was in August 1975. He ended up canceling the tour. He was on a plane headed for Las Vegas, and he could not catch his breath, so they made an emergency landing in Texas. Elvis had to lay on the floor and put his mouth up to the vent on the plane, on the Lisa Marie, to help get enough oxygen. Now, if Elvis was in one of those states, which we know he was, in 77, August, 2 years later, there was nobody to help him because he told the Stanley brothers to leave him alone that night. That's why some people claim that maybe it was a suicide. The maids and cooks say that they heard a loud thud coming from Elvis's bathroom, or at least the upstairs, but they didn't check on him because Elvis wanted to be left alone. That could have been when Elvis fell off the toilet. And another thing, people were like, well, no, an overdose, it wouldn't be like a sudden death like that. They would just go, kind of pass out, and maybe their heart would stop later. Elvis's death was a little more violent. Well, Elvis didn't die right away.
Report. Elvis Presley died here about 3:30 this afternoon. He had been found in his bathroom, unconscious, not breathing, was brought to the hospital by ambulance. Efforts to revive him in the ambulance and efforts to revive him here at the hospital were unsuccessful, and Elvis was declared dead at 3:30. He had probably died earlier in the day, sometime between 9 and 2:30, doctors say.
There were hemorrhages from his waist up, which showed that he was alive for a while because the blood vessels were bursting. So there was a struggle, and he was so out of it that he could not reach for the intercom, the little phone that he had. I believe it was on the vanity that he had in the bathroom, so he couldn't reach for help. People say, oh, maybe the Valsalva maneuver, like he was constipated from all the downers, and maybe that could have triggered a heart attack. Some others say, oh no, it's he had all these physical problems because his grandparents on his mom's side were first cousins, and so that explains it all. And he just took medication to help dull the pain, and he was just innocent. I don't believe that at all. If you do any research on the subject, you'll find out that first generation children from parents who are cousins only have a 4% chance of having birth defects, while children of regular parents, I guess you could say, only have a 2%. So there's a 96% chance that there would be no ill effects from children whose parents are cousins. Okay, so how much less effect do you think that would have had Elvis 2 generations removed from that? It doesn't add up. And also when you think of the thousands of pills that Elvis was prescribed, even in 1977, pills to get high, pills to get low. The Memphis Mafia said Elvis took a pill for everything. He thought a pill would cure everything. He even in the later years didn't take showers very regularly and took a pill to stop body odor. Elvis had a serious problem. Now, this is not related to any books or anything necessarily. It's just something I've noticed in general. The subject of Elvis's pill use is one of the hardest, no pun intended, pill for Elvis fans to swallow. They defend Elvis no matter what and see him through rose-colored glasses. And Lamar says, maybe if fans stopped showing up to the concerts and say, hey, we don't like you fat, maybe Elvis would have changed. I think so. Leave your comments down below.